What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jason here with the Cow Park Bros. And of course, on behalf of my fellow host Terrence, I just want to come to you and kind of say thank you for listening to us for all this time. And can you believe it's been almost 1 year, the Cow Park Bros? Yes. Our anniversary episode is coming up very fast. It'll be in April. So again, thank you for all that time. Thank you for listening. And in fact, for our anniversary show, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. We want to hear messages from you, whether it be go to our website, send us an actual voice message, or going to our voicemail, sending it that way, or just sending us a message on social media. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your favorite part of the Cow Park Bros is, what you've enjoyed the most, what you haven't enjoyed, what you love the most, favorite segments, favorite moments, whatever it may be. We just want to hear from you. And whatever we receive, we're going to incorporate that into our anniversary episode. Just enjoy the fact that, again, 1 year almost of the Cow Park Bros. And that wouldn't happen because of you guys. So thank you very much. And again, we want to hear from you. So again, make sure you go to gquPS.com, click on the message little button there, and I'll give you the option to send us a voice message, which we can play on the show. Or you can go to 405-877-BROS, call us there, leave a voice message there as well. Again, also want to use that for the show. And again, also, if you want to hit us up on social media, or send us an email to cowparkbros@gmail.com. We'll take it that way as well. Make sure you get on that and do that, so we can get that done. We can hear your voice. We want to hear from you. All right? But always, don't forget, when it comes to the Cow Park Bros, make sure you like us, love us, share us, and follow us. Because if you like us, why wouldn't you?
Welcome back to the Cow Park Bros podcast. Jason and I are fresh off the subject regarding the Winter Olympics and doping allegations. In this segment, we're going to be talking about the end of the 3G wireless spectrum as we know it, and what devices are going to be affected. Shout out to Jason, who actually brought up this fucking topic, and I was like, this is something you really don't think about. How many devices are affected when we upgrade, from 3G to 4G and from 4G to 5G, for example? We almost don't even consider, like, oh shit, there's a whole bunch of stuff that was dependent on those spectrums. And so I'm referencing an article from CNN by journalist Samantha Murphy Kelly on CNN Business. 3G shutdown will affect everyday devices you probably own. Unless you're off the grid, then you don't have to worry about it. It reads here, looming shutdown of 3G networks won't just impact older phones. With AT&T's 3G network shutting down next week, other carriers following suit later this year, a range of products requiring updates to continue working, including some home alarm systems, medical devices such as fall detectors, and in-car crash notification and roadside assistance programs such as General Motors OnStar. Many mobile carriers have urged customers to swap their older 3G iPhones, Android phones, e-readers, and other handheld devices for newer models ahead of the shutdown. And other businesses are urging customers to upgrade or replace some of the everyday products and services in their homes before they drop connectivity. Now, we already mentioned the OnStar connection. I mean, imagine if none of that stuff was updated, and how many people have OnStar who happen to have that service, and it just stopped working, right? That'd be crazy. Now, a little bit of background on 3G. 3G has been around since 2002. So that was really the advent of starting to get, your connected vehicles, your car infotainment, as I would like to call it, to be able to connect wirelessly. But anyone that's that's been able to afford a new car in, let's say, the last, 5 to 7 years, it was not going to connect over 3G. It was most likely going to be 4G and more recently 5G. And so with 3G doing this shutdown, all of those service providers, whether it's like an OnStar, whether it's like a home alarm system, they've had to do all these updates. It's almost like a little mini Y2K, Jason. So what are your thoughts about the fact that it's crazy that we've had basically connected devices like this for well over 20 years?
Yeah, I didn't realize it had been 20 years. Definitely didn't recognize that. Thank you for pointing that out. The reason why I kind of put this in the hopper to talk about is because, well, number one, for me, I had no clue it was even being phased out. So I'm like, oh, okay. We should probably talk about this to maybe hit some other people to this, that didn't know about it. So, um, but yeah, now I know you made that joke, earlier about the whole Y2K thing, which was funny. I'll give you that. I don't think it's anywhere similar because if we recall, anybody listening to this who was around back in the 2000 or excuse me 1999, everybody was freaking out because oh my god, Y2K, it's gonna be 2000. The computers aren't gonna know what they're doing because of the 00. I'm like, they're gonna get 1900. It was a lot of overreaction. You know what I mean? I think people would just feel like they weren't like the society wasn't prepared for that shutdown. They didn't know what was next. Well, we already know what's next already because we have 5G and still 4G at the moment. So I don't think it's that crazy or shouldn't be that worrisome for anybody. Obviously, you have alternatives to get everything upgraded that you need. A little bit of an FYI. Also, AT&T, they're shutting down their 3G today. So FYI, Verizon's going to be doing keeping theirs through the end of the year, December 31st. And T-Mobile, they're shutting down their stuff at the end of March and at the end of June for their 4G LTE. So FYI, we know it's all about phones, but obviously people who have those services are going to want to know. So also too, if you happen to have like a Cricket, Boost, or Straight Talk or something like that, you also those companies use the services, your wires and stuff like that, or towers for those bigger companies. So don't think you're not going to be affected as well. So FYI, me personally, I have Boost, so I was kind of like, okay, I might need to look into this, make sure I'm still good. But yeah, so I don't think it's that big of a freak out, folks. It's more of a hey, FYI, you might want to do some upgrades. And like Terrence said, not just your car or your phone. It's pretty much anything that might involve some type of 3G service connected. Um, but yeah, it's really not that big of a deal, frankly. Just do what you got to do. Make sure you stay connected. A lot of information that is on the FCC website to kind of guide you on what you can or can't do when it comes to this. So definitely, I advise checking that out. It couldn't hurt if you're worried or concerned. Um, but yeah, it's really just interesting times, like you said, because it's been 20 years since we had it, and I just kind of figured it'd be something that's always around because it's like, well, even though we're getting 5G and 4G, people still have those devices and stuff like that, and all those other daily needs. So I figure it's always going to be around. It might be really slow at some point, but it'll always be around. Well, as we see, 20 years, that's it. Um, so it makes me kind of wonder when did 4G and 5G come out because we can probably count down the clock to say in 20 years we'll look at the next G, 10G, 20G, whatever it may be. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal as Y2K. It's just basically a next phase of technology that we always get. Just like Windows always updates to their different releases. Remember Windows Vista? Exactly. I don't either, but it's there.
I actually do remember it, but yeah, it was short lived because I was like, yeah, that shit's old. Let's upgrade that.
Right. Exactly. So now they have Windows 11. So it's just like really any other, for the most part, any other type of update we're going to get. Which when it comes to technology these days, I actually, when you say 20 years, I'm actually surprised 3G was around for 20 years. Not I'm thinking about it, because like just a comparison to Windows. Obviously, each Windows version wasn't 20 years long, you know. So yeah, I don't think this is a huge deal, but definitely something worth mentioning because again, personally for me, I didn't know about it, and I can't imagine that. I have to imagine rather that there's plenty of people who are listening to this episode who probably weren't aware of it either. So yeah.
Yeah, and while you were talking about the FCC, the first thing I did, I was like, hold on, let me see what they're actually saying. Because what people may not even realize is that, a lot of us, it's a foreign concept, though. Unless you're a schmuck like me to like to hold on to shit for like 20 plus years. But there are some people that actually need this stuff. Like, they talk about some of the medical devices. I'm thinking like your life alert type of scenarios where there could be people from certain socioeconomic scenarios that if if they weren't getting the proper advice, they could really be screwed over if they didn't get the updates. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to. I mean, you know what? I was just thinking. I had to imagine that a lot of these carriers, whether it be your phone, medical devices, whatever, would have sent people notices about this and say, hey, you have a product that offers this. You need to do some updates because as of such and such date, this isn't going to be a functional piece of device anymore. And they may have, but depending on how that message was delivered, it may have gotten ignored. Because I was thinking, because I don't, I know my phone isn't 5G, and I don't recall getting any notices from anybody about getting any upgrades or updates. It may be 4Gs, maybe that's why I didn't get anything. But as we all know, if that message was sent via random text or phone call from a random number, it could have gotten ignored. Email could have went to the junk folder and got ignored that way. So uh, hopefully, there's somebody out there who's listening may not have been aware and they know now. Great. But yeah, definitely a great point, Terrence. Yeah, but I still just say it's interesting times. But yeah, I mean, even the FCC's website even recommends call your service provider. Look at the label on your device. If there's any information about that, getting software updates, go to the website of the company and check that out. It's important to know. I'll be very curious now to see how many people all of a sudden their device isn't working like it used to, and they get that, and they're wondering like, hey, what the hell's going on with my phone? It's been a week, and it's like still hasn't really been functioning properly for that whole week. Well, now you gotta buy a whole new phone or get an update, whatever. So, um, but let me ask you this, Terrence. I actually have a huge question for you. The next go around here. But are all your devices 5G ready?
No.
They're not. They're not. What are you wait? What are you waiting for, then, buddy? 5G. It's the way of today, man. It's 2022. Get with the times, sir. Get with the times.
You mean the times where they said, "Hold on, fam, we don't know if you can use this shit on United yet."
See, now you're talking a language I don't know. I'm not a flyer like you, but not yet anyway. But well, yeah, and that's that's another thing. What kind of things aren't going to be used? Able to be used because of. I mean, you kind of mentioned OnStar and whatnot. What kind of things aren't going to be used like just from that aspect, and not just your phone, or just when you're out and about somewhere, and because of that technology, you're not going to be able to use. Whether it be at airports or whatever, or at work, because your work's not set up for the uh, proper service now. So it's really going to be interesting to see what areas of people's life. I guess my own life, I guess, but what area of my life or even yours gets disrupted or halted even for a little bit because of this change that either people weren't aware of or weren't able to correct in just enough time. So I still say it's not a Y2K thing, which also turned out to be not that big of a deal. But I don't think people will need to put that on the same level because, again, we have alternatives and we know what the future is, at least, or what the next step is beyond 3G. It's 4G and 5G. So yeah. So hopefully, Terrence, you're not freaking out about it being another Y2K.
We will never. You know what? I can't even say that because I've seen some insane panicking the last 2 years and change.
About this?
No, about panicking and misinformation.
What's misinformation, Terrence? I never heard of that. Have we talked about that before, ever?
Be quiet. Anyways, the we're never gonna have a Y2K scenario because we all live that, and obviously, while some of that may have been overblown, I feel like infrastructures were built out of some of that anxiety, out of some of that hysteria, to ensure that it would never happen again. So that now you just have planned obsolescence, right? You know, that's, I'm sure that most of these companies, these wireless carrier companies, they have an ideal life cycle for when these services are going to end. And then the new spectrum is going to be opened up. So it, it's it's not meant to be as dire. And I don't think the average person, like these companies that rely um, on these services, on these wireless services, they've probably been planning for years. And so it's really going to be a footnote in the history of 3G, but I do think it is pretty neat that we've been talking connected devices for this long. Like that's insane. I cannot believe that OnStar's been around that damn long.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember selling cars way back in like 01, 02, and it was a thing back then. And it was, I think, it wasn't brand new in those years. I don't believe it might have been a few years old at that point, but it was a thing way back when. So yeah, as you're talking, it had me thinking. Okay, we're talking about 3G being gone. They currently have 4G. 2G used to be a thing. and now we're on 5G. So I'm like, wait a minute, is there any talks or discussion about 6G? So of course, go to the old Google, and sure enough, there's plenty of websites talking about 6G, about how fast it can be, when is it coming, so forth and so forth. Now, of course, there's nothing talking about when it's coming because it's probably way too soon. But it has me, like you're saying, everything updates all the time. So it's like, okay, it's never going to stop. It's 5G today. This is mentioning 6G at some point. Again, no date set, of course, so I don't want to get into that. But it's never going to stop. I'm sure by the time you and I get to be, old and rotten, it'll probably be 20G or something like that. So if they still have G, they'll probably move on to K or something. I don't know. Yeah. I not to say that we're totally young now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we're at that mid-grade age.
Mid-grade, like the gasoline mid-grade.
Yep. Good old 89 there, champ.
All
right.
Speaking of 89, geez, we're getting close to halfway there, bro.
Yeah, that too. Well, that concludes our segment on the shutdown of 3G technology. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the cryptocurrency craze and what that impact is on the stock market. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.